The only way is for you to be sealed to a man worthy to live celestial and plural marriage. And it's so important, you young men and women, that you enter into this law right. You will be tested. The boys must leave the girls alone, and the girls must leave the boys alone. It's a sin to even talk about boyfriends and girlfriends, because you know the right way. We should respect each other, but leave each other alone. The only ones worthy to go to the highest degree of glory in the celestial kingdom, the only ones worthy to become gods and goddesses, kings and queens in heaven, are those who enter into plural marriage through the prophet of God. As you are faithful, as the young men build up the prophet and do the Lord's will, as the young ladies are faithful to their good fathers, the Lord will speak to his prophet. Heavenly Father knows you. You are his son or daughter. He loves you. He knew that you could come to this earth and be born among the priesthood people. He knew that you could be taught and you could receive this law. It's wonderful that you live in a good priesthood home now. You have loving fathers and mothers. But one day you'll grow up. And the only way you can continue on and be useful to the priesthood, the only way you can grow and increase and become like Heavenly Father, is to enter into this law. But you must be worthy. You must be clean. You must get close to Heavenly Father while you're young, so that his Spirit will talk to the prophet. What happens to people that enter into this great law of celestial and plural marriage and then turn away from it? The Revelation says they will be destroyed and then delivered over to the buffetings of Satan to suffer a misery where they can't be happy until they've suffered for every wrong. People that enter into this great law and then turn away from it, they receive the worst punishment. On the other hand, people that enter into this law and live it right by keeping sweet and loving one another, by obeying the prophet, those good people will receive the greatest of blessings. They will one day have worlds of their own and go on through eternity and have many children. They will truly be happy. All others will one day come to an end. So only through this great law do men and women continue forever. What a test the people went through in Joseph's day when this law was revealed. When Joseph revealed it to men who had wicked hearts, they became Joseph's worst enemies. And they accused Joseph of all kinds of evil. Yet men who turned away from Joseph were the ones that did evil, and even had the spirit of murder. So Joseph had to go through all these tests while he was teaching this great law. And we'll read in the history, and we'll tell you more stories, how Joseph's worst enemies used to be his friends, or they said they were his friends. Why does a man want to enter into this law? First of all, the Revelation says, if he does not, he cannot have an increase and become a god. But what would motivate a man to receive more than one wife and raise a large family? A good priesthood man enters into this law because he wants to build up the priesthood and bring forth children who will build up the priesthood. This law is not for wicked people. This is not for the world. Anybody who thinks they can have more than one wife out in the world, who thinks they can do it without the prophet, they're wrong. They won't have any wives in the next life. Only those who are faithful to the prophet, whom the Lord reveals should live this law, they are the ones allowed to abide it. When this law was given, the 12 apostles were taught, and they were very slow to enter into it. Here's Brigham Young's description. He said, "Do you want to know my feelings when I was first taught that law? When I saw a funeral, I envied the corpse." That means he wouldn't have minded trading places with that dead person. That's how hard he thought that test was. And he said, "I knew I had to labor with myself to go forward in this. And yet, once they made the sacrifice, they saw it was the most beautiful law, the only way they could increase forever and ever." And these men, like Brigham Young, Heber C. Kimball, John Taylor, they would rather die than give up the law of celestial and plural marriage. Heber C. Kimball said, "This law of celestial and plural marriage would yet sail above the heads of all opposition." And we've been taught, those who go back and redeem Zion will be the children born through this law. And they will be fathers living this law and mothers living this law. And here we find that we are the very priesthood people called upon to abide this holy law. Most of you children are born through this law. Your very life and birthright, your very existence is because of this great celestial and plural marriage that came to your parents through the prophet. You should rejoice in it. You should want to prepare and be worthy to enter into it by keeping yourself clean. Oh, young people, eternity was within your reach if you will just live faithful so the prophet can place you properly in marriage. There's other interesting stories in relation to this law. I'll just mention one. Eliza R. Snow had a brother named Lorenzo Snow. He would later become one of the 12 apostles, and later he would become president of that Mormon church. He didn't have any wives.